There will be average people becoming millionaires in the next crypto bull run, but that's only for people who are preparing now while no one's paying attention. And from being prepared really early on in the last bull market, I was able to absolutely clean up, and I plan to do it even bigger this bull market and do it alongside you guys. So in this video, I'm going to use my experience to show you where I think Bitcoin is going to go within the next 1 to 2 years, a cool way to pick strong investments that will likely outpace just holding Bitcoin, which crypto specifically I'm looking to buy into, some different portfolio structures depending on how much money you're getting started with, as well as my plan and strategy to sell at the top and lock in profits so that by the end of this video, you're gonna have a complete roadmap of how to get rich in crypto in 2024. I'm gonna be investing about $250,000 into this bull market. I'm gonna show exactly what I'm doing. And at the end of the video, I'm gonna show you something that we've been working on during the bear market that just last week I used to be able to make $20,000 in a single trade. So if that sounds interesting, make sure you hit the like button on the video, subscribe to the channel if you like trading and investing. Check us out on Discord, Instagram, TikTok. We have an amazing trading community. All right, so recently we've started to see the price of Bitcoin pick up a bit, and there seems to be a little bit of momentum. But in order for us to figure out when Bitcoin is going to blow up, which is then going to cause a ton of other cryptocurrencies to move up significantly, we need to understand the cycles that Bitcoin moves in. So what I've done here on this chart is drawn out when the halving cycles start. Every time there's a Bitcoin halving, the mining rewards to mine Bitcoin get sliced in half. And the reason for this is because Bitcoin is proof of work. So there's a certain amount of electrical output that is required in order to mine a Bitcoin. If the price of Bitcoin is below the cost of mining, there's no incentives for miners to mine Bitcoin, which is going to restrict the supply. When the supply is restricted, that makes it more scarce and often drives the price up. Once the price goes really, really high, it is very, very lucrative to mine Bitcoin, which increases the rate that Bitcoin is mined, which then over time regresses the price back down to that average. Now, this is going to continue to happen until all 21 million Bitcoin are fully mined, and this is estimated to happen in year 2140. So this green line here shows the cost of mining for Bitcoin. There's only been 2 times that the price has dropped below the cost of mining. The first one was during the COVID crash when everyone was panicking, and the second time was here in 2022 after we saw this crazy big sell-off in the market. So these halving cycles are relatively predictable. We can see December 13th, all-time high of market, December 17th, all-time high of market, December 21, all-time high of market, all following this sine wave, which really does mean that Bitcoin moves cyclically. And if we see in the 2017 pump from the beginning of the halving to the all-time high was 525 days. Okay, after we saw that all-time high, we saw a drawdown in price of about 85%. If I take that exact daily duration and start from the 2020 bull run, from the beginning of the halving cycle to the all-time high, that 525 day mark brings us almost exactly to the all-time high once again of the 2021 crypto bull run. From this all-time high to the low, we got about a 77% sell-off. So right around that 80% sell-off. All right, so what I did is I hastily drew out what I estimate the cost of mining to be. So if we take our 525 day outline and we start from this halving period, which is set to happen in April of 2024, we can see that following this pattern, the all-time high of Bitcoin should happen in October of 2025. But the question is, how high will it go before we see that sell-off? So I used my trend-based fib extension from the beginning of this move all the way to the high, which are Fibonacci multiples that we use when we're day trading to figure out where exactly the tops of trends will likely be. But we can use the same exact ideology on larger term investing. All right, so we have our 161.8 value right at this 110,000 mark. And we have our 261.8 value right at $175,000 per Bitcoin. Okay, so these are the 2 levels that I'm looking at, considering that we normally get about a 75% sell-off from all-time highs on all of the previous cycles and have the price trade back down to the cost of mining. That would mean that if we went out 525 days and we went all the way up to our 261.8 projection, coming back down to likely where the cost of mining should be would give us a 75% sell-off, which is what we've seen in both of the previous cycles. So if Bitcoin continues to follow the pattern that it has followed for the past 3 cycles, we could be looking at $175,000 Bitcoin by the end of 2025. And while this is exciting if you hold Bitcoin, the amount of money that's going to flow into smaller market cap projects and present 20x, 50x, 100x opportunities for us is where the real money is going to be made. All right, when we saw this move in 2020 and 2021, We saw Ethereum 20x. We saw Cardano 100x. That was one of the ones we called publicly on YouTube. We called Dogecoin at 4 cents. That traded up to 87 cents. And these opportunities are extremely important because even if Bitcoin reaches that level, this is only a 400% return. We would have to see the current $678 billion market cap at least 4x from here, which would bring the market capitalization of Bitcoin to around 3 trillion, which would be about 30% of the total global market capitalization of gold. So if you're investing $1 million, of course, making $4 million is pretty good. But if you're investing $500, 4xing that and making $2,000 isn't really that exciting. Whereas if you're trading with a small amount of money, just in the past week, we made 300% in 3 hours trading smaller projects like this. And these opportunities are what I'm going to be talking about a little bit later in the video. If we look at some of these smaller coins, say AVAX, for example, AVAX is sitting at a $4.3 billion market cap, whereas this project can 15x in price and would still have a realistic market capitalization of some of these smaller cryptocurrencies. The smaller the market cap, the less money required in order to push the price up, but the more implied risk there is, the less people that are holding it. So where you end up putting your money strongly depends on how much capital you're starting with and whether you really want to preserve that capital or if you're looking to take on more risk and grow it more quickly. So when I was growing my portfolio, this is the risk profile that I took. When I was dealing with right around $10,000 to $25,000, I had 25% allocated into Bitcoin because I knew that if crypto survived, Bitcoin was going to follow through and carry out all the potential losses from the other more degen investing, right? A little bit more risk on investing. I had 25% in mid and reach cryptocurrencies. So these are medium market cap cryptocurrencies. So basically anything under the market capitalization of Ethereum. So in this 30 to say a couple $1 billion market cap. These are the projects that can, pretty easily 10, 15x in the time that Bitcoin is moving up a couple 100%. And then 50% I allocated towards low cap crypto trades. So these types of trades where we can make 600, 1700% and use say half an Ethereum and turn it into 5 or 6 Ethereum to then redistribute into more safe holdings to continue growing your bag. So every time I got proceeds from this, I would roll that over and reduce the risk on into something more consistent to increase the security of my investments. So this medium risk portfolio would be if you're trying to preserve some capital, but you still want to be a little bit aggressive. I had half my holdings in Bitcoin, 25% in those smaller to medium cap cryptocurrencies, and then 25 for those low cap trades. Now I'm in a position in this bull run where I'm using over $250,000 to invest. So my goal is to preserve that capital and have it grow over time. So 70% distribution into Bitcoin, 20% into those medium reach cryptocurrencies, and then 10% for those degen trades. Okay, just last week I was able to make over $20,000 taking those low cap cryptocurrency trades. Okay, I'm a day trader. I still want to have capital to use and I still want to do that as a regular income, but most of the investments that I want to position when you're dealing with larger money needs to be in things that are a little bit less risk on. All right, now that we've talked about portfolio structure, how do we find cryptocurrencies that are likely to outpace Bitcoin, and what are some of the ones that I'm watching personally that I think are going to strongly outpace Bitcoin? Now, what I use for this is something called beta coefficient. When we're looking at beta coefficient, it's showing us how strong or weak an instrument is based on a comparative index. In this situation, our main instrument is going to be Bitcoin. So if we're starting out with a smaller amount of money, we want to see in the time that Bitcoin moves up, say 40%, how much are these smaller market cap projects moving up in the same time frame, which is going to indicate that if we time the entry of the market properly, we're going to be able to make substantially more money. All right, so let's talk about some of the cryptocurrencies that I'm watching. So I think that the crypto bull market will largely be led by two things. It's going to be GameFi and AI. Okay, there's a lot of hype surrounding AI, and GameFi is an actual real world utility that we're actually starting to see crypto used for that is generating a ton of money. So I wanted to find cryptocurrencies that were sort of fitting the narrative that I'm seeing around me when I'm talking to people that are developing projects and where I hear people building. And one of the blockchains that is leading in sort of the GameFi space and that a lot of these projects are still building on is Solana. So if you remember, Solana's price got substantially beaten down when they got wrapped up in some of the FTX turmoil. Okay, this, in my opinion, dragged the price further down than probably what the accurate valuation would be. And you can see the price of Solana pumped like crazy, went up about 10x during the previous cycle. Now, if we look at other blockchains that have done this, typically what happens is they see their big run and then they come back for one more cycle and then they sort of fizzle out and don't really come back. We can see this happened with Neo. This was one of the biggest blockchains in the 2017 pump. Now look at this pattern. Now look at Solana. Okay, Solana's in the gaming space. It's listed on all of the major legitimate exchanges, and look at how the price action has been forming this uptrend along this bottom here. Okay, we broke out of this neckline resistance level, and now the next level that we're getting resistance on is this point here. In my opinion, if it breaks out of this level, this doesn't have a lot of resistance until we see around 150 per Solana, which is already going to be about a 4x. And this is something that I mentioned to the private team. If we look at from September 1st to that high that it made about 160% move in the same time frame that Bitcoin made about a 40% move. So Solana has a beta coefficient of 4, is listed on all major exchanges, is related to GameFi, and has already pushed like crazy. Okay, this is one of the biggest plays that I'm going to let pump. I'm going to be following the wave structure, and then I'm going to be collecting that profit and rolling it back into Bitcoin, depending on where we are in the cycle. Another coin that I'm looking at that is sort of following that same narrative is actually a coin that was brought up to me from one of the research analysts here, which is called Bittensorn. And this is basically decentralized machine learning, similar to what ChatGPT is doing. Okay, this has a $285 million market cap, and you can see we're getting a 61% increase. Same time frame, Bitcoin only moved up by about 27%. So we're still getting a beta coefficient of 2. This is definitely going to be a smaller holding because the market capitalization is a lot smaller. What will happen is the money will flow into Bitcoin, and then it will start residually flowing into these smaller projects. So just because it doesn't have a high beta coefficient now, I think the narrative behind this and the fact that it is built for developers and has real utility with AI, this could be a project that could quite easily 10 to 20x in market capitalization. All right, and sort of following that GameFi narrative, all oriented around designing games. And this is one of those projects you could see easily being an $8 to $10 billion market cap project, which would give us an over 10x on our investment, which once again, I think could have a crazy large beta coefficient compared to Bitcoin. So even though my portfolio is going to be largely Bitcoin and Solana, these are definitely some interesting projects that are going to be a little bit more risk on for that smaller allocation. But before we go ahead and start aping into all these projects, there is a high probability, in my opinion, that this move that we're seeing right here leading up into this cycle could potentially trade up to this 40K mark and trickle sideways before we end up seeing that major move in the market. If we look at what happened towards the end of the 2017-2018 bull market, all right, we got a 300% move in Bitcoin. People probably thought that this was the last buying point in here. And then after that point, we saw a 75% sell-off before we saw the major move up in 2021. I don't think that we're going to see that big of a sell-off, but I do think there's a chance we go to 40K and then simmer off and potentially trade sideways around that 35K mark for potentially even a year before we do start to see some traction in cryptocurrency. And if this happens, even if Bitcoin trades sideways or down, altcoins are going to bleed and all of the money is going to continue to get stripped away from these investments. So my game plan in this, I wanted to take 100% of the money that I aim to buy with, and I've added 50% now here at or around the 30K retest level. That way on January 10th or before January 10th, if the SEC allows the Bitcoin ETFs, okay, that $13 trillion worth of assets that's on the sidelines from institutions ready to pour into cryptocurrency, that essentially could 5 to 10x the total market cap of crypto in general, so that if institutional money starts pouring into cryptocurrency, I have more exposure to ride the wave up in case we don't get a retest, because also people are now desperate, hoping that the market sells off so that they can buy before the crypto bull run happens. That's also an element to consider. Whatever's going to cause the most financial ruin is the most likely outcome. So my game plan is to take 50% exposure here, and then if we do get a sell-off, evenly dollar cost average into my investments and wait for the move to come up. Because this next move in cryptocurrency is also going to largely depend on the interest rates that the feds decide to keep. Okay, the interest rates are extremely high right now, which means that it's lucrative for big money to be in risk-off assets. Using the same analysis in the stock market, we have a 5-wave structure with the formation of B here on the Dow Jones, which means that there's a chance that we could round the corner here and see a 30% or more sell-off in the stock market. If this happens, the Federal Reserve will likely drop rates to sort of incentivize economic growth, and this will mean that large money will want to park their money in more risk-on assets, which is exactly what we saw at the end of COVID that led to this massive run and it sort of catalyzed the bull run in 2021. So let's talk about the strategy to actually lock in profits if and when we do see this major move up in cryptocurrency. All I'm going to be doing is following these 5-wave structure in these projection zones. In all of these smaller cryptocurrencies other than Bitcoin, I'm going to be selling almost my entire position when we get to either the 261.8 or 361.8 projection, depending on the wave structure. So I want to use the previous move of Bitcoin as an example of what I mean. The beginning of our trend started here. If I take a Fibonacci projection from that level and go up to this high here and then back back down to create my factor of 1, you can see the 161.8 was the perfect high of Bitcoin before we saw the price absolutely melt off. And we can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5-wave structure. Anytime we're getting shallow retracements on the first move up in cryptocurrency, it usually indicates that a 161.8 projection will likely be the top of a trend. Obviously, in this instance, if this is green level is our 61.8 full retracement, we didn't get anywhere near that, which makes sense that the 161.8 level was hit. Now, in order to do this on the next Bitcoin move here, we need to have this wave structure develop a little bit more. Okay, like I was talking about in the analysis that I did about 6 months ago, here's our 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5, likely to come up to this $40,000 mark. Now, when the market sold off, people were laughing at me, but now we're starting to see the price is breaking up more towards that $40,000 mark, which could then move up, create our ABC structure, and trade somewhere down to this 50 level, which would trade back down to that $30,000 mark before we see a bigger move up. Now, if we are to see this level hit, I'll then treat this major move here as my 1 projection, and then we'll have projections to be able to look at for the short-term movement of cryptocurrency. On these smaller cryptocurrencies, once they dump off, they're likely to never come back again. I want to hold Bitcoin long-term. So until we see at least the 161.8 projection at the roughly 100K mark on Bitcoin with the wave structure that I'm going to continue to analyze, I'm going to be holding my entire position. If this wave structure looks like it's going to be a top, I'm going to be scaling out partial parts of my position. But really what I want to wait for is a parabolic move up into this zone. And if we do see a parabolic move up into these levels, I'm going to be closing around 60 to 70% of my position, holding 30% of my Bitcoin no matter what. All the smaller assets, I'm going to be liquidating 100% of those and keeping them in cash reserves to redistribute until we see the price of Bitcoin trade back down to the cost of mining, where I'll then finally one more time roll the profits back into Bitcoin and hold the rest long term. But regardless, throughout this whole process, I'm going to be taking regular trades on cryptocurrency and actively trading all of these opportunities that come in, because at the end of the day, we need to follow where the opportunity goes. Now, this being said, over the bear market, we've been working in silence for the past 1 to 2 years, building out something that is going to be a crazy opportunity, especially on smaller accounts to scale those accounts. All right, we created something called Gem Calls. This is going to be a Discord server that is a culmination of all of the fundamental research on these small and micro cap cryptocurrencies, where we're able to make 300, 1700% gains. With the network that we've built and the team of researchers that we have on our side, we're able to find early alpha on these investment opportunities. Like I said, just last week, I was able to make a little over $20,000 trading a pair that we called out here on Gem Calls. Now, Gem Calls is going to be powering the micro cap investing in the NevaTrade private trading team. So anyone that is in the premium Discord is automatically going to get access to all of this information, which will be forwarded to the Discord automatically so you can follow along with these opportunities. But for right now, this entire Discord is going to be free because we want to prove that the value is there first. I'm going to be posting the link to this Discord in the announcements channel on the NevaTrade Discord. If you comment NevaTrade gems, I'm going to be picking 5 people to be grandfathered into lifetime access of Gem Calls so you can use it all through the bull run, because eventually we are going to be making the group private. Once again, if you are on the private side of our trading team, you're already going to get this information forwarded into the NevaTrade Discord. All right, we don't know when this bull market will happen, but this bull market is likely to be like none other. The amount of inflow of capital that is there is going to be life-changing money for people that are properly preparing now and are taking advantage of opportunities. But anyways, guys, that's all I have for today. If you're still here and you found this video valuable, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you like trading and investing. Don't forget to write NevaTrade gems in the comments. And until next time, guys, I will see you all in the next video.